All right, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
3, 2, 1, action!
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Nerdy Misfit Podcast.
Hello.
What's up, Matthew?
Oh, I took a shower and forgot to moisturize my face, so my face is super dry.
All right, then.
That's it. How are you doing?
We're on episode 99.
Here we've come so far. Next episode, triple digits.
Episode 100. The big 100 is next week.
Big 100.
We have something perhaps unexpected in store.
Dun, dun, dun.
But that's next week. This is this week.
This week.
And this week happens to be the last episode of the month.
Yes, sir.
So if you've been following since the start of 2024.
That's 3 months ago.
That was 3 months ago. We have been doing an anime watch-along, I guess you could call it, where each month Matt and I have picked an anime. In this case, it technically is 3 separate anime, but we're counting it as one because it covers one story.
Yeah.
And we watch it over the course of the month. We let everyone know at the beginning what we're going to be watching. And then the last episode of the month, we chat about it. Whether we recommend it, what we rate it. Obviously, we're going to spoil it.
Yeah.
But you guys are welcome to join along. We do have a Discord. Link will be down below in our link tree, where you can join in and comment along with us as you watch the series and give us your thoughts and be involved in the episode if you want. And potentially we can even watch some of the show together if plans work out that way.
Exactly.
But before we get into that, I thought we'd, there's been some things that happening in the nerdverse, if you will. First of all, one of Matt's all-time favorite things ever, the X-Men. Coming out, we have X-Men 97, which is the highest rated thing on IMDb, if I remember,
something
for this
crazy
year.
like that.
For
yeah,
this
for
year.
this year, yeah. Which I watched bits and pieces of the first episode. The intro, as soon as the intro hit, it was just like straight nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like they obviously cleaned it up and remastered a little bit.
But you got the goosebumps.
They got the goosebumps. The music's great. The voice acting, like everyone's back. The design is a little different, but not like cringy, in my opinion, too aggressive.
Is there a specific story they plan on
well,
telling,
because
or
at the end of X-Men
ended?
season 5, Charles Xavier dies, right? So this picks up after that, and I can pull up a little.
Okay,
bit
so it's
here.
just continuing on.
Yeah, and basically, if you watch the trailer, it kind of just discuss how the will and testament of Charles Xavier is the fact that Magneto owns the mansion, basically.
I see. Okay.
So,
and is this an actual story in X-Men comics?
I believe so. Yeah, I was watching a couple of people that watched the premiere, like the first 3 episodes in Hollywood, and they were discussing how like it looks like they're setting up some of like the biggest X-Men stories.
Which is nice to see. I think the 90s cartoons, that's something they did very well, where there was always some original content, but also they followed real stories.
Well, yeah, you had Days of Future Past, you had the Dark Phoenix saga, you had like Apocalypse, like
the
you had
Apocalypse story, and this
everything.
goes for Spider-Man,
X-Men,
Iron Man. Followed, all
Fantastic
of them
Four
were following real stories, but also some. Then there would be obviously some arcs where they were kind of doing their own thing, and I thought overall that was like a golden age of comic book story animation.
100%. But now, because this is doing so well, have you seen the petitions and like people
for
are
Spider-Man?
Like, yeah, they're like, well, why don't you just bring everything else back then?
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen that, and that's one thing we've talked about. Something that DC has done right has been their animated movies, and that's because why? Because they're telling an actual story.
Exactly.
And that's what people like. They like when there's actually a purpose to the cartoon. Why do you think Avatar: The Last Airbender is so popular? Even I know that we're talking as adults about this, but kids like that too.
Yeah.
Kids like a story being told.
Exactly.
They are smart enough to keep up with it. Give kids some credit. But yeah, I mean, I'm totally excited. I'm probably gonna wait until the whole season's
Yeah,
aired.
it's the first 2 episodes are out, and then it looks like it's 1 episode a week until mid-May when it's done.
And I'll probably crank it out. But it looks great, and it's amazing. Yeah, it's lovely to see that it's doing so popular.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm sure as an X-Men fan, you're just overjoyed.
Yeah. I'm excited.
You can't be upset.
I mean,
about
I wanna rewatch the entire show, but like to be fair, that is 5 seasons worth of an animation, and like.
Yeah, but would you rather watch that, or would you rather watch all of the X-Men films?
I mean, some of them are good, but yeah, I see the point.
Yeah. It's nice to see something good being coming out of the X-Men.
It's about dang time.
Even though I'm sure the Deadpool movie will be decent,
Yeah,
which isn't really X-Men, but mutants are in it.
close enough, you know.
MCU mutants at that.
MCU mutants.
Other than Ms.
But-
Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, other than Ms. Marvel, everyone's favorite Inhuman mutant.
On top of that, you have today's Power Ranger campaign. You'll be doing your recording
session
before your
going
campaign.
into session 21.
But it sounds like you guys have a few more sessions, and there might be a little hiatus going on.
Bit of a hiatus potentially.
Are you excited for the hiatus, like a little bit of a stress off, or are you kind of disappointed knowing like every session, because we haven't been updating everyone on how the sessions have been going, but it's been getting intense.
Whole episode to discuss what's been going on in Power Rangers, but
we'll have to do one when this break happens. Then,
yeah, I mean, I'd love to just go on a rant about everything that's happened between the death, the time travel,
it's been
aliens,
everything you can think of is in
the
it.
lying, the death, the cheating, the
players coming through with also just making
plot twists on top, like some of the
bringing
players,
the drama.
Oh my gosh, dude! The fact that I had players like tearing up and shaking last session, and like kudos to me as well, you know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But my music choice was like spot on for like here and there for the last few sessions, off and on, in my opinion. My players will tell me otherwise when they listen back to this. I'm looking at you, 4 people that listen to this podcast that are part of the campaign. But I'm super pumped to continue with it for now. I think a break could be healthy for my brain and other people. But I also don't know if that heist is going to happen, what's going to happen with those certain players that will be leaving. So it's up in the air. I mean, I have contingency story points put in place in case.
Of course.
They need
Yeah,
to
I'm
take
sure
a
there's
break.
ways to work around, but hopefully
Exactly.
at least a majority, if not all, of the Power Rangers in your campaign can come back together.
Yeah, exactly.
I have mentioned, obviously, our D&D campaign has been put on pause for a bit, and it is, there is always that itch, and I think that's what will bring people back. It is just hard to, obviously, you guys have a very good thing going. You got a pretty solid location that everyone can meet at, and everyone meets in person, which is nice.
Exactly.
It's very nice to have. Obviously, I think a lot of campaigns go online, which has its benefits, of course, being able to do it from anywhere, but it might not have that same drama.
It doesn't. Let me tell you, because when you have your players do something that's so out of like...
And you're looking in each other's eyes when you're doing stuff, yeah.
Exactly. When one person starts tearing up because something's happening, and then someone else sees it and they start tearing up, and then another character just literally just grabs their piece and just moves it to stop something from happening on the board, you're like...
No one gets distracted either. Everyone's in the moment.
Exactly. 95% of the time.
95% of the time.
There's that 5% when something is just hectic.
It's definitely far less online.
Yes. I think especially during combat, it gets a little tricky. Whether you're
People are just
online
kind of patiently wait. They're just waiting.
And they get distracted kind of thing, right?
For sure. Well, that's good. We'll definitely have to do an episode going through where you guys began, kind of where, like a really good summary. Maybe we can have one of your players on
potentially
to talk about how the DMing's going.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have Ebats on, perhaps, who's been very into it.
He's been loving it recently. I'd love to have Ebats on. He is coming out for a future episode, so stay tuned for that fun surprise.
But I think it could be fun to kind of get the perspective of a player on the campaign as
versus
well.
me,
and someone who's not as experienced. Like, obviously, we love having Tim on, but Tim's an experienced DM himself.
DM, heart
so
to heart.
He has that brain.
Exactly.
So it'd be nice to get someone who's more, I'm the player. And I've really been enjoying this experience as a player, not necessarily looking at from the DM point of view.
Exactly. And I'd love to be able to share it too, because like when I opened session 20 2 weeks ago, what I did to make it because it was session 20. And like my thing is something big happens every 10 sessions. So going into the session, I had some things.
Well, now you told
planned.
them your tricks. Now you have to do it like an
Oh,
eighth
I know.
session. Throw them off.
They gotta really throw them off, you know. But I feel like it builds the hype, you know. Calm down.
But it's like a Game of Thrones season.
Exactly, you know.
Even though I'm pretty sure most of their big ones were the 9th episode.
Yeah, but you know, whatevs. But so when I opened session 20 2 weeks ago, I wrote down a brief description of everything that happened in the past sessions to really be like, this is how far you guys have come so far. So I can definitely share that on the future episode. I've named every single episode as well, and they're references to like pop culture or like different movie titles. Like I have one called The Black Ostrich Begins.
Okay.
I have Casino Royale because one of my characters' name is Ray.
Yep.
We got Highway to the Danger Room. The Bonds That Transcend Time. That's a Yu-Gi-Oh movie reference for those who don't know. Let's Get Ready to Fumble. Like, oops, I dropped it again. There's so many references, which would be super fun to
go through.
Yeah, Wake Me Up When September Ends. Like,
all right. Well, yeah, I'm definitely. Well, we're excited to hear more about the campaign. Also, for all the Power Rangers that are listening, don't let it die out. You know, just because there's a break coming up does not mean it has to end.
Doesn't have to be another 11-month break, you know.
Exactly. Other big things is we have the full Star Wars Acolyte trailer that was released a couple weeks now, I think.
About a week ago, I think, from when I'm recording this.
For those who might not know, where are we looking at here?
So this is 100 years before the Phantom Menace, and this is about a couple years after the High Republic Phase 3 of the book series.
Okay.
All the characters that are in the show are original to the show, except for one character, Venestra Rowe. She's been in 2 High Republic Phase 1 and Phase 3. So she'll be the one that kind of ties it together. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple other characters that are more background characters in the Phantom
like
Menace.
Easter eggs or hints to characters, because obviously we have
Yoda's around.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yoda's around, Yaddle's around, Yarlon Proof, which is I believe is on the Jedi Council in the Phantom Menace. He's obviously around, and there's another guy on the Jedi Council that's around too. I can't remember what his name is, but he's a weird like snake beard man, humanoid looking thing. But yeah, I'm super pumped because this will be the first appearance of the Light Whip, which is dope because that's my big thing in the High Republic. She's one of my favorite characters of just literally this like 15-year-old who became a Jedi Master, figured a way to tinker her Jedi lightsaber to become a whip.
What works for her? Yeah,
this is dope, and it's a purple lightsaber, and we're gonna see the use of the yellow lightsaber, which is gonna be really
that was in the
exciting.
trailer, prevalent in the trailer.
Yes.
I'm excited to just have something that's not focused on the Skywalkers.
Oh my gosh, that is the biggest thing too. Like the fact that
not
this
that
is nothing.
I don't love Star Wars, but we have. But
exactly,
there is so much content that's been created for this franchise now.
Exactly,
and it's so much history, so much lore that's not been explored at all.
And now we're finally getting
been in
that.
this like 50, 40-year-old
literally though, yeah.
cocoon, and that's it. But there's a massive universe.
Yeah, it's literally the
lore.
birth of Anakin to the death of his grandson.
Yeah,
that is the timeline of the Skywalker saga.
So, yeah, I'm excited. I haven't read the books personally. Obviously, like you said, a lot of original characters. I'm not super familiar with the history, but I'm just excited to see something not focused around the Skywalkers or impacting the Skywalkers in any way.
Like we might have mention of Darth Plagueis or Palpatine.
But I would love to see Plagueis.
Exactly. Like it'd be a nice, even if it's just an Easter egg, like it's still good.
Because even if we get to see some form of Plagueis planning, or because that's something I am more aware of. Obviously, some of the stuff leading up to where we are with how conniving, truly intelligent Plagueis was.
Yeah. But we've never physically seen it.
Never physically seen it.
If you read the Darth Plagueis Legends book, you know about it. But
so it'd be cool to see him potentially, even just hinted at.
Exactly. And I think from Disney's point of view, they probably will try and tie it just a little bit to the prequel trilogy. So either Darth Plagueis or Yoda or
we'll see one
Palpatine,
of those
something has
longer
to connect
living.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even if it's like Palpatine's mom
to
or
give
something.
it some, I guess, familiarity to people who might not know.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they keep going further and further back. I want to see
I wish, dude.
the era of like when there were multiple Sith, like when there was like an
Oh,
army
the
of Sith.
old Republic. Yeah.
I would love to see that. I'd love to see the story of turning into the Rule of Two.
Yes,
Because
Darth
that could be a
Bane.
whole season of a show itself.
I would love to see the story of Darth Bane
like
made into a
that could be epic,
visual.
and just following just Sith,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like that'd be cool, something different.
You know,
So
and there's various stories you can take of the Sith. Like there's so many good Legends Old Republic stories, either the games, Knights of the Old Republic, or some of the novels and stuff that are made around that time period as well. Like there's so much lore.
So we'll see what they do. We'll see how it goes. We'll definitely be watching it, and we'll give you guys our 2 cents
Definitely.
for what it means.
Exactly.
And then the last big thing that's been going on actually is Dune Part 2 has been
this is your wheelhouse.
has been exploding. Hilariously, both Matt and I, not Dune fans, which is, I think, more surprising that you are not a Dune fan, considering one, it's a massive book series.
Yeah.
It's something that has inspired modern day sci-fi and just storytelling in general. Something that literally has inspired Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I do find it crazy that you haven't at least read the original Dune book.
I own it.
Oh, you own it?
Yeah, I own it. It's a big boy. If those who don't know, it's a hefty
He
boy.
is big. I also now officially own the original 6 Dune books. But yeah, I've seen already. I did see Dune Part 1 a little bit after it came out. Did not get to see it in theaters.
I have the page number. It's 896 pages.
Yeah, it's big.
So that's why.
And I knew nothing going in when I saw Dune Part 1. And I recently saw Dune Part 2 when it was in theater. Well, it still is in theaters, but pretty much the first week, I think. And it was fantastic. If you want to be nitpicky, there's obviously issues. There, you can always nitpick stuff. Maybe a little bit of some pacing.
Yeah.
I didn't find it too jarring. I give credit to anime for that in terms of training montage / how quickly things happen. I just, in anime, you just come to accept, okay, that happened and he learned this over the course of this much time. Cool.
Done deal.
I don't need to see everything. But from a I'm no cinephile, I'm no cinematography buff or peak film person. But even when it's done well enough, even people who don't know can recognize,
Yeah.
And I've watched a lot of director commentary interviews now for Dune Part 2, and everything possibly that could be possibly filmed with was filmed with natural sunlight.
Yep. Which is crazy to think about.
So there's like scenes where he's talking about the dunes and how they had to create their own dunes, so they had proper lighting and shadows where they wanted. And I'm just like, okay. But yeah, I just find it to be a very intriguing series. Honestly, I got to see it in theaters, and then I recently saw it again in IMAX.
Okay.
And I will say it was completely, the IMAX experience was worth it. I had to drive 45, 50 minutes away, but it was noticeably different being on the proper screen. The surround sound is crazy because both the music for Dune Part 2 and Part 1 is remarkable. Mm-hmm. It's just so perfect, but also the sound engineering, like for sound effects and stuff, is also top tier. And there's some really bassy stuff, and the floor is literally shaking in the IMAX theater. It is that crazy. And I think that's Hans Zimmer who does the
I believe so, yeah.
That did the soundtrack for both Dunes, and he did a fantastic job. I personally am of the belief that we are potentially witnessing a modern classic in terms of a potential trilogy, since we will most likely be getting Dune Messiah as the wrap up for these 3. Yes, Dune has 6 books by the original author, Frank Herbert, and then there's other books that kind of tell
his son
and someone I can't
continued
remember
on,
the
and
name.
some other guy.
Yeah, and they did some prequel stuff, some stuff post, but The original 6 by him, I don't see albeit being adapted, but I definitely see Dune and Dune Messiah being adapted, which will be 3 movies. And I do see it being held up with the likes of Lord of the Rings and the original Star Wars trilogy.
Okay.
I think that is something we're witnessing right now. You know, you had that Star Wars trilogy way back. That was massive. Then you got Lord of the Rings, super influential fantasy. I feel like now that I've been getting really into Dune and realizing what its influence and stuff, it basically is to the level of like what Lord of the Rings did for fantasy is what Dune has done for sci-fi and more, because I'm sure a lot of political writers or something like Game of Thrones that has a lot of politics in it too. I'm sure George R. R. Martin's taken stuff from Frank Herbert for his story.
Yeah.
And brought it in. It's just very well done. And it's also a very interesting and real feeling tale of not blindly following someone, whether it's a religion or a leader. You can't just blind follow. It's good to question, you know? And it's fair. I mean, we see it in today's age as well. And the one thing that blows my mind is I believe the novels were written either in the 50s or early 60s.
1965, the first one came out.
And there's no computer.
No.
There's technology, but there's no what we would be known as a modern day computer. And in this series, AI is banned. Like the thinking machines are banned and stuff. And it's just like the creativity of someone to basically predict where we are now. Yeah. Like imagine Frank Herbert seeing what we're doing now with AI and what computers are like now and social media and people being just absorbed and stuck in shorts and reels and whatnot.
Yep.
And then also just the political atmosphere of how people are just blindly following people, even no matter it. There are literally people that can do no wrong and people will still follow them.
Yep.
It's crazy how it's like the man has the future sight or something. But yeah, we'll talk more about it, I think, on a future podcast episode, because I'm most definitely going to be trying to peer pressure Matt as much as possible to watch part 1, and then we'll go see part 2 in theaters, because I'm a good friend and Matt loves film. So I got to make sure that he sees this film, if not on IMAX, at least on the big screen in general.
I do want to see it. It's just...
So I'm going to make sure that he finds time to do so. Because it wouldn't be the Nerdy Misfit podcast without it.
It's true.
But yeah, so I'll stop gushing about Dune. I've just been like in a Dune. Like I just have so much Dune lore now in my brain. So many YouTube videos.
You've went down the rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, and it's a massive rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it gets weird. It gets very, very, very weird. But wow, it's just what an incredible story. And what a story that is finally getting an adaptation that it deserves to the quality. Because I've also seen clips from the original Dune movie, and it's disturbing.
Yeah, don't even compare it.
It's it's bad. But yeah, okay. Moving on to the core of this episode, which is the anime of the month that we watched, and so this is a series that we were both at least familiar with.
Yeah.
I don't know how all the audience is feeling about it, if they've even heard about it. Perhaps if you're anime fans, you would have, because this definitely has a cult following, I would say. Yeah, we watched the first set of movies of the Monogatari series, which is Kizu Monogatari.
Yeah, which translates to, I think it's like Wound Story. It's something like that.
It technically is the first story in the series. This anime is based off of a light novel. I should also preface that I think has a big impact on how Shaft handled the storytelling. Yes. There was no manga at this time. There is a manga going on now, but I think it's only for Bakemonogatari, if I'm not mistaken. I believe
so, yeah.
And so in release order, this would not be the first of the series that came out, but a lot of newcomers might watch this first because canonically it comes first.
Yeah, it's a prequel to Bakemonogatari.
I hope that makes sense. It is very confusing. I know. When you need to have an explanation of how to watch a show, it's already becoming too much. But that's how it works. These are 3 movies. that are the first light novel, and it tells the pre-story, or is it the second light novel? Second light novel. See, I'm even confused. Third light novel.
Bakemonogatari Volume 1, Bakemonogatari Volume 2, and then Kisomonogatari.
Okay. So the prequel comes after. So it is confusing. I think personally, before we rate and discuss it, I actually, looking back at it, think you should watch these movies first. And there's 2 reasons. Reason 1. It is a different art style, animation style, than the rest of the Monogatari series. So I feel like if you watch these, then the rest will all be the same once you start like Bakemonogatari.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I think that that's kind of a good way to look at it. You don't get interrupted by all of a sudden a completely different look.
Mm-hmm.
Start with this, go on to the seasonal series, which then all look the same.
Okay.
Second, I just think it's better if you just tell the story in order.
Yeah.
Looking at you, George Lucas. But yeah, I just think, just watch it from. It does help explain a lot for Bakemonogatari, which can be. There's a lot going on in Bakemonogatari if you watch it in release order, which is the first book, like Matt said, and also the first anime series that was released for it. And you just have a lot of questions of like, what the heck is going on? And these movies, they explain it. So may as well just get that explanation out of the way. So going in, they were all about an hour and a half, I believe.
The first 2 were just over an hour. The last one was an hour and a half.
So they're not bad. They're not too long. Pretty easy to crank out. Matt has read 3 novels.
I've read this one. I've read the 2 Bakemonogatari volumes.
Okay,
I
so
started the next one.
So the other thing going into it is the series as a whole is a little unique. I think that's fair to say.
Oh, definitely.
There's a lot of people who are big fans of it. One thing is that the author is known for using kanji in clever ways to kind of have where the English reader will never truly get
the jokes,
the creativity, or like the humor or the uniqueness of the writing, because it's in English and it just doesn't translate the same as seeing Japanese kanji, that you can write something that means the same thing but with different kanji. Mm-hmm. So it feels like if you don't speak or read Japanese, you'll never truly get that perfect experience of it. That being said, it is a very unique series, very dialogue heavy.
Except for the first 8 minutes.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. I think as a whole, I've watched pretty much all of the Monogatari series except for 2 seasons.
Okay.
And it's a very dialogue heavy series. So you got to go in ready to read and pause potentially if you're not quick at reading subtitles, because it ain't dubbed. And it ain't dubbed. And that's one of my first things for the first movie. Like Matt just said, 8 minutes until we get dialogue. And I just felt like overall the first movie left out dialogue on purpose to almost be more artsy. I don't really have the right term. And I feel like that hurts it, because if this is the first season of a show that someone's watching to get into the Monogatari series, it's, I think, not helping it. It's not helping the cause.
No, if they did something like that for the second movie, I'd be like, okay, whoever's watching this has already seen the first movie.
Yeah, they know what they're coming in for.
Exactly.
But to give everyone, obviously spoilers ahead now, to give everyone an idea, basically the Monogatari series as a whole focuses on one character, Agaragi, who is a teenage boy who basically, the way the movies break down is he chooses to save a vampire by offering his body up. The vampire does not kill him, ergo he turns into a vampire. And the rest of the story is basically getting her limbs back so that she can get to full strength.
Yes,
that's the
vampire
premise.
hunter-esque people.
Yeah, that's the premise of the story.
Yeah.
She's I guess ancient or old.
Yeah, she's over 500 years old.
She's an ancient vampire, so she's very powerful. Her limbs, she's also unique, so her limbs can grant power. I think that's like the goal of the hunters gathering her limbs. But yeah, that's the main premise of the 3 movies that's told. After the Monogatari series, more focuses on Agaragi and the oddities that occur around him, since now he's been involved with oddities and now it's more common for it to happen because there's like a magnetism of oddities. Like once you might start seeing them more. So he basically helps out other people in his area with oddities stuff. That's kind of what the story is. It's very weird. Now, back on the movie. What would you... It's tough to approach. What did you think of the first movie overall?
First movie overall? I mean, overly, I gave them all the same rating.
Oh, you gave them all... You didn't enjoy either one a little... I thought the third movie was the best.
Yeah. But I don't know if, like...
Anything really stood out?
Yeah, I mean, the animation overall, they were all relatively within
They definitely
own...
kept within the same style.
Yeah.
Very consistent.
The story overall, I mean, same thing.
And like you've read the light novel. It
I read
was
the light
of
novel.
accurate.
The adaptation was pretty accurate, as I feel like most anime is, if it's not filler in quotations.
Yeah.
I mean, as a whole, the first one, it sets up the story for the second one.
Yes, I agree. The first kind of gives you that taste of what's going to be happening and sets up the story for the remaining 2.
Yeah. I would disagree with a bit of the second one. I feel like the second one didn't really do that.
No, I felt like the second had a lot of the... it handled a good chunk of, I guess, training / actually doing something. Something's actually starting to happen.
Yeah, the first one was like, hey, welcome to this kind of world. Here's your mission. We'll get to it.
This is what's going on.
Yeah.
These are the characters you should get to know.
Exactly.
And that we'll see.
And you do. You follow the... I don't want to say 4 main characters, but you have your 2 main characters and your 2 supporting characters.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then you're like, hey, by the way, you got to go fight these 3 people. That's the end of the first movie.
And the second movie basically is
fighting those 3
starts
people.
with seeing him about to fight one of the, and then goes back,
Dragaba.
and then you see him start fighting all of
Yeah.
these. They're vampire hunters, but some are vampire, some are half vampire, and then some are not.
Exactly. I think moving into the second film, I think it's interesting that all 3 of the hunters are different.
I thought that was pretty cool too.
Like, I think that's good storytelling because he's not fighting the same thing over and over again.
And they all have different purposes for why they're doing things.
Exactly.
You have someone who's like, I'm just here to get paid.
Yeah.
You have someone who
It's a half human, half vampire.
who hates vampire. Like, they're there because they just want to kill vampires. And then you have a human.
Your human priest.
Yeah. You got your classic exorcist level.
Cliche.
The
guillotine cutter.
And they're all powerful in their own right. And we slowly learn what Kiss Shot, Accelera Orion, Heart Under Blade, who is the name of the vampire, how she is very powerful because her newly created, not spawn, created kin is a very strong, even though he has not been a vampire very long. He's got insane healing factor that is just not common, and he's got some pretty insane strength, which is also apparently very uncommon for vampires, especially of that age in terms of how long they've been a vampire. So we do straight up see one of them just be like, nope, I quit. Like, you are too strong. Like, I can see it, even though our main character can't see how strong he is yet. What did you think of... So we mentioned this. We obviously already mentioned it today. You're a film buff.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the unique take on the stylization of this movie as a whole? So for those who are unfamiliar, these 3 movies have habit sounds wrong. Obviously, it's a choice to have real elements, real photos, real video footage crossed with animation. So, for example, we'll see a scene of of characters discussing in the background, and we'll see a real waterfront with them all animated in the back, but the water is real.
I think it was an interesting take on animation. I think we saw something kind of similar in a way to Boat to the Rock, like that random addition of animation.
Yep.
Boat to the Rock did it slightly different. But I think crossing elements of real versus animation, it both takes away and adds to it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. Some parts you notice it, but it doesn't hurt your eyes.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mind the water, seeing the real water or real stuff in the background, especially when they did more of a zoomed out camera view of them talking, and it's more of like they're a silhouette and there's this nice background or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't find that was too bad. And it almost, in a way, it's something you don't see often, so you're kind of more intrigued. But then there's scenes where they're bouncing, and there's a real sandwich, like a real picture of a sandwich on screen of what the character is about to eat.
I think if you're not, I think going into the first movie, you're unexpecting, but then you get used to it fast.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really take away as much, but it's kind of...
It's jarring, though, at first, for sure.
It's jarring if you're not used to it, for sure. There's certain times where the animation just seems whack.
Do you have an example?
I'm just thinking during the final fight.
Are you talking because just the way the it was choreographed? Because I didn't find the final fight too...
I guess, yeah. My apologies. Yeah, the choreography was a little whack because, when he's just his head and he slowly...
Yeah, but that's not the anime. That's the choice of how they designed the fight. And he should be getting wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically just relying on his ability to regenerate.
Yeah, 100%.
I thought the fight was kind of funny.
Oh, no, the fight is funny.
The final fight, yeah, where he's getting totally wrecked by a key shot under a blade. Coon. Yeah, I found it to be pretty entertaining, well animated. Obviously, yes, from a standard shonen level fighting, the choreography was definitely different.
Yeah.
But also, the whole series is
different.
So, I was totally open to it. The thing that I found, which, as someone who's seen the Monogatari series, I'm used to the cuts to the colored backgrounds, and that's something that they do a ton throughout the series. But the cuts to random stuff like real Coke bottles and...
Yeah, it seemed weird almost.
Some of that was a bit weird.
My pet peeve with these movies is the use of the helicopter sound.
Yeah.
It took me out of it for a second. I'm like, okay, are we random? Because there's, for those who don't know, there's random clips of just buildings. And when you're using that bird's eye view, you just hear a helicopter.
I think it's supposed to be as if a helicopter was panning over it, right? Which is an interesting take, but
it kind of just got, I don't want to say it got annoying, but...
It was used a lot.
It felt overused.
I thought the first movie also had some drawn-out pacing.
Yeah.
It feels like the story probably could have been told in 2 movies. 2 hour and a half, 2 hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, if you made them an hour and a half long, then definitely.
The first movie just felt like it dragged more. The other two didn't have that same feeling. Mm-hmm. Just the first movie felt like it kind of...
Yeah, if they ended the first movie with the second fight, maybe.
Yeah.
Because then you would have 2 fights in the first movie, 2 fights in the second movie.
Like I said, lack of dialogue, especially in the first movie, kind of probably played into that a bit. But yeah, I can see it being a bit of a deterrent. The animation, the choice of some of the sound, the the just stylization.
Yeah,
could be a bit of a deterrent. But I think you should definitely go in giving it a chance because the story is both unique and fun in its own way.
Agreed.
And you get to like the characters. Not so much here, because we don't have that many characters to really get attached to as much as when you start getting into the high school and meeting friends,
Yeah.
quotations. Obviously, we meet Hanakawa, who is, she's a fun character. I like her wit and her comebacks. Like, I like the way the character is.
Yeah.
She's a pretty funny character, and she's also kind of this mirroring of Aragi, where he's not necessarily like a flunky, but he's not like an elite student, where Hanakawa is.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like this duo would work, but they really play off each other really well.
I think the chemistry they have, I mean, if you've read the books, you know that obviously that continues on.
It's something
more.
throughout the series.
Honestly, it makes me kind of want to reread the book, if not like just so I can jump back to continue reading the series. The series is big though, like it is like
It's long.
20 books.
Yeah.
So that's something I also got to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's definitely not short. Both light novels and from a manga, it almost feels like if you are a patient person, you could just read the manga.
Yeah.
But the manga is so far behind, and we don't have confirmation of how far they plan to go.
Yeah.
Which is also not great. But yeah, that's pretty much the only other real character.
Yeah, it's just the 4. Well, you have what's his face, right? Like the guy who's watching it from afar, the guy they pay him.
Yeah, you have
what's-
Oshino or whatever
Yeah.
his name is, who is kind of like an experienced oddities person.
You just accept it.
He's aware of the oddities. He's also kind of, in his own way, messed with Kishia and Underblade and caused part of this issue in general.
Yeah, I mean the more books you read, the more he becomes more important because there's other people that have issues that are main character.
And that's
finds.
who Aragi goes to for advice on how
Yeah.
to deal with it. So he's a mainstay. Hanakawa's a mainstay. Kishshot, who ends up becoming Shinobu, they're one of the same, in a way. They those are the main characters from the movies that are also regulars throughout the series.
Yeah.
The people that they fight, it's pretty short lived, honestly. I found the fights they were all pretty entertaining in their own way.
Very different.
Also,
Yeah.
the way he won the fights was
Yeah.
also different, which is kind of cool. Like, he was like, oh, I can beat this person by doing this person by this. So I did enjoy that element of the story. The only thing I thought was a bit ridiculous is in the third film, where he is going to be turned back into a human. He has a deal with Kishshot for becoming a human again. Or like got her all her limbs. She's back to full power. And she'll turn him back into a human. And then he's like, oh, I'm chill. Like, let's get something to eat. And he goes to like a 7-Eleven. And he's just like on his way back. And then she's eating a human.
Well, she's not eating just any human. It's I think it's Dragoma, isn't it?
She's eating the priest.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So the one that he fought in the movie previously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he literally basically walks in for her ripping his face off with her teeth.
Yeah. And then for some reason, that's what was needed for him to clue in that vampires eat people.
And he just helped defeat the people that could kill her.
So now he has a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
Of, I've just saved a vampire. She's going to kill more people. And that's on me now. That's kind of Aragi's thinking.
Yep.
How it only just occurred to him that she's a vampire
2 weeks.
when she turned him into a vampire by sucking his blood.
Yep.
Is a bit much for me. I do find that to be a little bit ridiculous, but it was probably stressful, a lot going on.
Yeah, exactly. He was kind of busy.
Maybe Hanakawa should have told him or something, but I did find that to be too ridiculous, but obviously that's what causes him to end up fighting Kishshot, and the reason for that is he has to kill her in order, well, he technically has to suck her blood until she's dead.
Yeah.
To become a human again / kill her. And he doesn't want to do that. So then they just fight it out. And the conclusion of the story is he ends up sucking her blood to the point of her not being dead, but also to the point of him not being fully human.
Yes.
So she is in such a weakened state that she is basically a shell of what Kishot used to be, which is now how Shinobu's introduced, because now that's what she ends up being called. And and then Aragi is on this line of I'm as human as he could be without killing Shinobu.
Yep.
And it's kind of a interesting ending to a story because instead of like the happy ending, it's the nobody won. Everyone's kind of equally miserable. And that's how Ashino kind of describes it. He's like, I don't know a scenario where everyone's happy, but I know a scenario where everyone's not. And that's the scenario that they end up taking.
And that's that.
And it's that's a different take.
Yeah. I think because you expect him after this whole journey to like finally win, get his goal, kind of thing like that, and the cliche shonen style.
Yeah, like how are they figure out a way
yeah, he's
where
gonna be human
Shinobu
again.
can live and doesn't have to eat humans anymore, and he can be human again.
Yeah. But he kind of is. He kind of wins, but then he kind of doesn't because he's not fully human, but he's not a vampire.
But he is.
But he is.
And then Shinobu's not going to eat people because she can only eat or feed
Drink
on
him now.
Aragi. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you rate it out of 10?
I would say 7.5s for the first two, and then the third like an 8.
Okay.
It is nice that there's no drop in quality
Yeah, it's
throughout
consistent
the
throughout.
series.
Yeah.
The voice acting is great.
Yep.
Art style and stuff like that is subjective. This definitely could be. Think of a good example is something like Devilman Crybaby, right? A lot of people love the series, love the story, but I think it's fair to say that the animation just isn't everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it's bad,
No.
but it could be perceived as not welcoming or bad to people that don't enjoy it. And that's just the way pretty much anything works,
The way it is.
right? Like there's stories, like full novels people don't like because they don't like the writing style and it just doesn't work for them. Or
Exactly.
so I will say that is definitely something that people have to either get over or they just have to enjoy. It's not something that can be like, it's not going to change, you know, like if you don't like it, then there's no gonna, you don't like that art style, your mind's not going to change.
Exactly.
To be fair, also the Monogatari series is a little bit on the ecchi side.
Yes.
So if you're not into ecchi content, then you're going to find some scenes, especially later on, to be out of taste.
Yeah.
An example would be we have, throughout this movie, we have a couple pretty emphasized panty shots
Yep.
on top of a scene where Hanekawa literally takes her underwear off and gives them to Aragi as kind of a like a stay alive and show up to school when school starts.
Yep.
An incentive. And Aragi's a bit of a perv, it would seem.
What?
So you also have to be a fan of ecchi. Open-minded.
Open-minded. There you go.
Because it is ecchi. But other than that, it is. I kind of like the series because of how different it is. That's kind of what attracts me to the series. I definitely prefer the art style that Shaft takes for the majority of the Monogatari series more. And I think a lot of people would because it's a lot more normal. And they kind of do their own Shafty storytelling in their own way where they have a lot of quick cuts. They have a lot of head tilts, the classic Monogatari head tilt.
Yep.
Very emphasized like faces and stuff like that for the characters. That's very Shaft, which they do in this series as well. But yeah, Shaft is also, they're definitely an old studio. They've also done some big series they've done is March Comes In Like a Lion, which is another very uniquely stylized show. and also Madoka Magica, which is just a mind F in its own way, in a completely different way. But Shaft is just very good at telling these more unique kind of tales, if you will. And yeah, I feel like they're known now for the Monogatari series. That's like their bread and butter.
That's kind of their staple.
And yeah, this is the start, technically the start of the story from a timeline point of view. So, from the chronological point of view, this is where you should start. And hopefully you can get through it and end up enjoying a very complex, fun, interesting, whack show. But also totally understandable if it's not your cup of tea. Because I think that is something you can definitely say about the Monogatari series. There's some shows where you're like, like it's so inoffensive, people will like it. Monogatari is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Is it your cup of tea, Matt?
I don't mind it. I mean, I've read it, so I
Yeah,
enjoyed the adaptation.
I feel like going in knowing something about it helps.
Yeah.
It makes it easy and more digestible.
Yes.
So if this is your first time hearing about it, hopefully this will prepare you if you decide to take the journey. Because it's going to be a very interesting journey, to say the least.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add on, Matt, for the three movies?
Not really, no. I mean, I gave it all a 7 across the board.
Yeah. I think there's better things to come through the series. And that also has to do with the oddities that are seen and the characters that it happens with, I think, have a large impact. I think what I liked about the movies is just the explanation it gives as to what truly happened with Aragi and Shinobu.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of hinted at a lot through the series. And Shinobu, you just have to accept that, he's part vampire and Shinobu's just in his shadow and you just accept it. But the future stories that are told with the other oddities are pretty cool, in my opinion.
I agree.
And unique, some of the oddities you meet. Mm-hmm. That being said, we now are going to let you know what the anime of April will be that we are watching. I've made the decision that we're going to watch something more normal. Because we've watched some heavy hitters, honestly.
I do agree.
So I thought we'd take a trip to Shonen Land.
Okay.
And we're going to watch something that's a first for Matt. Something I've seen before.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to be watching Haikyuu, which is a sport anime. I believe this is your first sports anime that will be...
Yes, technically.
There we go. Technically. You saying technically because you've seen like a swimming anime or something?
No. I'm trying to think. I thought I have seen a sports anime before.
Okay, so your more classic sports anime.
Yeah.
Which... it's about volleyball. It's a volleyball. You follow some volleyball boys playing volleyball. And I believe it's on Netflix.
Yep.
Well, we only want to watch the first season.
Yeah.
If people like it, and if Matt likes it, I'm sure you'll continue watching. But we're only going to watch the first 24, 25, whatever the first season is. Mm-hmm. And we hope you guys join us. Matt, are you looking forward to it? It's been on Matt's watch list forever.
It's been a hot minute, so.
And the other thing is the movies are coming out this year.
Okay.
The final movies that cover the ending of the series. So potentially maybe you're caught up by the time the movies come out in English. And then you'll have something to look forward to.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, if you guys want to join us, there will be a thread for you to join us in the Discord to join the anime of the month. We highly recommend you do it. We would love to get your input. If you watch the Monogatari series, let us know what you think about it and recommend it to your friends, Get more people watching. It's good to broaden your horizons.
Yes, it is.
That being said, we're heading back to our horizon.
Exactly.
which is shonen. So we look forward to seeing what... I'm looking forward to seeing if my tastes have changed at all. Because I have a current rating for it, but I wonder if that rating might change.
That's true, yeah.
And I'm curious also to know what Matt will think about it. Obviously, Matt, you're not the biggest sports person in general, Which I think is why volleyball is kind of a nice medium for sports anime, because it's pretty easy to understand, and there's lots of rec versions of volleyball. You know, if you're interested, there's lots of rec leagues, something a little bit more simple to get into. Not saying it's a simple sport, just from the lower, you know. So we'll see how it goes. Anything else you want to add on there, Matt? Anything to look forward to?
Look forward to next week's episode of episode 100. That's what's to look forward to.
Look forward to episode 100. And also look forward, we've hinted at it a couple times, but there's an episode that we finally are approaching. That is an episode 100
soon.
That Matt and I are super excited to have come out, because we recorded it over a month ago.
Exactly.
And it was a pretty dope recording session.
It's supposed to come out to like episode 92 or 93, and it kept getting pushed back and pushed
things
back.
Things
it's
kept on
coming
happening.
Soon.
Super excited. Look forward to the next couple episodes. They're going to be fantastic. We love having you guys along here for the Nerdy Misfits podcast. Fellow Misfits, you guys are what makes this possible. So keep listening in, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.